So, with Infinity War pretty much being the big game changer that Marvel's been building up to since day one, I decided to do a video that I've been wanting to do since, now that we have Infinity War coming out, and now that we have the news that Disney, now owns the rights to a lot of Fox Entertainment, it's now pretty much up to debate that, we're going to be looking into uncharted territory now. It's pretty safe to say that Infinity War is, very open game right now. It's very, anything can happen now that Disney got the rights to Fox. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen, and a lot of events, because the big question is, after Infinity War, is where do you go from here? That's the big question a lot of people are saying, is that where can you go after you do Infinity War? What else can you do after that? Now, obviously, the next movie after Infinity War is Ant-Man and the Wasp, which we don't know a lot about. Having said that, though, what's after Ant-Man and the Wasp and Infinity War? That's going to be the big defining moments for the Marvel Universe. Now, I think next year, the following year, 2019, we are going to have, I think that's the Captain Marvel movie is 2019, if I'm not mistaken, and that's going to be set in the 90s. And it's also going to feature the Skrulls. And now that we have Fox Entertainment, the rights to Fantastic Four, now we can get not just, regular old Skrulls, but also we could get Super Skrull, Pybok, Titanus, those Skrulls, and it's a big question, and this is going to be something I'm going to be talking about right now, is what's the big event you could do after, now with Infinity War out of the way? I think the next big event that we could do in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Secret Invasion. I honestly think that there's a lot of potential for Secret Invasion being the next giant event that they build up to, like they did in Infinity War. And that's a big thing. And I understand that, yeah, Secret Invasion was not a great event, but neither was Civil War, and yet that was a pretty damn good movie. So I think that, there's potential for the story of, the Skrulls are invading secretly throughout the world, and it's been happening for a while. So I think that's a possibility. The Kree-Skrull War could also be another one. Like I said, the Kree-Skrull War would be another big story for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think what might happen is that it might be a combination of the Kree-Skrull War mixed with Secret Invasion, like how they did, they mixed in elements of Planet Hulk and Thor Ragnarok. I think that may be the case with this, is that they could easily just go, we could just mix and match the two events and place them together, and I think you could do that, honestly. So that's my personal thought and theory, that could be the next one, because we obviously have the Skrulls, and now that we have Fantastic Four back, there's also that. And the other thing is, obviously, they've pretty much talked about how Thanos is not going to die in Infinity War, and he's going to be a big villain throughout. My bet is that, we still need another big villain that we can hold back on, that we can, use as, that's as powerful as, Thanos. And, there's several villains that, now that they're back under the Marvel light, we can do. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, we can see on the big screen, and, the Marvel Cinematic Universe can do. And, villains like Kang. Kang's a great villain, time travel, you can really play with, not just stuff with the Time Gem. I think he owned the Time Gem at one point. But yeah, Kang the Conqueror would be another great villain to really focus on and really play with time travel. Doctor Doom, I think it would be kind of cool. Like, I know it'll never happen in the movie, but I think it would be a cool scene in Infinity War, like the after credit scene for Infinity War at the very end is like it's showing the devastation on Earth after Thanos' attack on Earth, and what happens is it focuses on a country. You don't know what it is yet, but all you see is like there's just total devastation across this land, and then you close up on a castle, and you've got this old guy, clearly Boris, Doctor Doom's right-hand man, and he's talking to Doom, who you don't see him right away, you just have Boris talking about, the dead are insurmountable, our country is in total disarray and the Avengers or the UN won't bother to help us. And then it focuses on Doom. You see like the green cloak around him, and it swings the camera angle around to his face, and he says, "They are all doomed." Because I think, yeah, it's time for proper Doctor Doom to be seen in in this film. Now you're probably wondering, well, what about the Fantastic Four? You know, what can we do with Fantastic Four? Yeah, well, actually, I'm going to quote my friend Red Leader and Tilly's, because we talked about this right after the merger and what you could do. And this would actually be a really smart way to play with the Fantastic Four and have them in here, as well as Doom and everything else. My idea for how to bring in the Fantastic Four without doing an origin story again, because, you know, it worked for Spider-Man. You didn't have to do an origin story, just set it a few months. But here's the crazy idea Red and I had. Basically, the Fantastic Four have been trapped in the negative zone since the 60s by Doctor Doom. Like, they were, you know, Reed Richards, they already had their powers. They already got their powers, you know, via the cosmic rays way back in the 60s. But what happened, you know, like, maybe not 60s, but maybe, like, updated a bit, like, maybe 70s or 80s. Either Doom or even Annihilation. And they were, you know, the Fantastic Four were kind of like, they were exploring this new gateway that S.H.I.E.L.D. brought Reed Richards on that would be the negative zone. But what happens is, like, Doom or some other villain attacks them and traps the Fantastic Four in the negative zone, and everyone thinks they're dead. But, you know, through circumstances, the rift to the negative zone is reopened again by maybe, like, Thanos' arrival on Earth and using the Infinity Stones or something to that degree, and the Fantastic Four are out of the negative zone and back on the world. But now it's like a Captain America situation where it's like, we've been gone for an X amount of years, what the hell? You know, this isn't 19 whatever that you could have them trapped in, and, you know, you could just go from there and not really do it. Because, yeah, I think you could do this movie and still get away with not doing an origin story, because we've done that three times. 3 out of 4 movies. 3 out of 4 Fantastic Four films. They haven't been great. And yes, I'm counting the Roger Corman movie. Anywho. So yeah, that's just my idea of how to bring in the Fantastic Four and explain where they've been all this time. Anyway, so another storyline I think would be cool for a future movie. Maybe like an event in its own way, but not on a large scale like Infinity War is going to be. But this is more for Guardians of the Galaxy, and that is like a movie adaptation of Annihilation. Now, for those who aren't aware of what Annihilation is, it was a big story involving Thanos and Annihilus more or less destroying the galaxy in what is known as the Annihilation Wave, which was like this basically, more or less, Annihilus basically Zerg rushed the whole galaxy with his army from the negative zone, and the big focus was like Nova and Star-Lord. In fact, the Guardians of the Galaxy you see in the movies and all that is actually spawned from this event. You know, having Gamora, Drax, Rocket, Groot, and Star-Lord. That was the team that version of the Guardians of the Galaxy came together in the midst of the Annihilation Wave. And plus, you know, now we can have we can have the Skrulls in here, we can have Silver Surfer, the Kree. It kind of sucks that Ronin's dead, because Ronin played a really big part in here, but maybe you could still bring in, you know, the Super Skrull, and like I said, the Skrull Empire. You could, you know, depending on what they do with the X-Men movies, you know, depending on how they handle the X-Men movies from here on out, you could possibly bring in the Shi'ar and the Imperial Guard into this, you know. And yeah, you could still use Thanos in here. You could still use Thanos. You can still use Adam Warlock, because they built him up in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So I see no problem with them, you know, bringing out Adam Warlock in this film and having him combat Thanos. But yeah, the big two villains would be Annihilus and Thanos, and even you could have Galactus in. The problem is that Annihilation was a big fucking thing, like really big, and you may have to take stuff out. this movie may be a little too big. It might be a little too overcrowded because yeah, the comic was filled with like almost every cosmic character. So depending on how well Infinity War handles all its X amount of characters, I don't know, because Annihilation was pretty big. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, if that's going to be the final Guardians movie, depending on what happens with Marvel, and James Gunn, and how they've just been doing 3 movies each, I'd say go out with a bang. Just do a loose adaptation of Annihilation. You've got all the characters back, and I am pretty friggin' sure that that James Gunn is jumping at the chance to use X-Men and Fantastic Four characters in his movie finally, because if you ever go to like his fan page or whatever, he's always leaving these little blog posts of how much he wants to. He talks about all these other characters he wants to have but he can't use. So yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that that's probably going through his mind right now. Now that we have this, this buyout happened. So. Yeah, totally. That was actually my first thing, even more than Secret Invasion and anything. Well, Secret Invasion, but one of the things that first came to my mind with this merger was a Annihilation movie. And, possibly we could get maybe later down the line, maybe not Guardian-centric, but, maybe we can get War of Kings. We've got the Inhumans already, might as well, right? And they ain't doing too hot on TV, so I'm just saying, why not, right? And plus, also I have this theory that what's going to happen in Infinity War is that because as you guys remember, the Power Stone is locked up with it was locked up with the Nova Corps. So my working theory is that Thanos is going to wipe out the Nova Corps, and only either Sam Alexander or Richard Rider, they're probably going to use one or the other, is going to be the last Nova. And you could probably do as a Nova film, like him caught in the middle of the War of Kings, and that's how you can maybe do like the Shi'ar, because the big thing with War of Kings was that it was kind of the aftermath of Annihilation, and the whole thing was the Shi'ar and the Inhumans warring it out. So yeah, I mean, they're not doing too hot on TV, might as well try again with movies, right? So yeah, that's kind of what I think could happen. I'm still hesitant on what they might do with X-Men, but there is a lot of good. But make no mistake, and I talked about this in my video, my vid that initially talked about the other 2 vids, because I did too, talking about the good that can come out of this. It's just the X-Men stuff, because we were just getting all this cool experimental shit from it, and now I'm kind of worried because it depends on what they do. They did confirm, however, that Deadpool will still be R-rated. So breathe a sigh of relief on that. But I'm still wondering what they'll do with like characters like Wolverine and the X-Men in general, because like it's still a little late to bring the X-Men in after everything that's happened. It's still a little late, but excuse me. There's still a lot of chance for the Shi'ar and the Imperial Guard, but still, it feels kind of hollow just having the Shi'ar and the Imperial Guard without the X-Men there. Looking back on it, so it's a tough one. This is a really tough nut to crack. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what big storylines would you like to see done, and how would you like to see done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Infinity War? Do you guys want to see Annihilation or another storyline? And what big event do you want to see, and how do you want to see it playing out? Once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm out.